खण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। So, yesterday we had a small satsang, Krishna and the Bhagavatam. So generally we discussed matters regarding the Bhagavad and the multiple roles that Krishna plays in his life. I also pointed out yesterday that Krishna is not simply considered the son of Devaki, but we yesterday discussed Kunti's prayer in Bhagavatam. So in the Mahabharata, when Krishna is about to leave for Dwarka, he says goodbye to everybody, including, of course, Kunti, because she is the matriarch of the family. So he goes to touch her feet. Have you heard of God touching somebody's feet? Nowadays, even if you have a slightly good job, you refuse to touch anybody's feet. You know that Krishna, before going to Dwaraka, goes to say goodbye to the elders by touching their feet and saying, okay, I will see you, goodbye. So, in the process he goes to Kunti, and we were discussing, because what Kunti says shows that it's the essence of the Bhagavatam when it begins itself. When the end of the first sloka ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi, I meditate upon that supreme truth, not upon the manifestation only, but on the supreme truth. So Kunti, when she talks to Krishna, she makes it clear that this is what you are, not what I think you are. She says that, and I know that all these things, you stand there and you smile and you say that the battle is over and I am going back. You were the man, you were the fellow who started the battle, you were the one who went through the battle, and you were the one who ended the battle finally. So don't try all these tricks with me, I know who you are. Yet, having known you, and we all feel blessed because you keep saying that when I love somebody, I take everything away from them, so that the love is concentrated only between you and me. And even though we belong to a wealthy family with such a background and a ruling family, you have still been with us, which is a big sacrifice as far as you are concerned. So I am very thankful to you for that. Also, I have one prayer to ask of you. So Krishna says, what is that prayer? She says, this is a dangerous prayer. It's famous in the Bhagavatam as Kunti's prayer. She says, I am going to ask you something. You have to give it to me. She says, okay. She says to Krishna, I bring all the misfortunes and disasters in the world on my head. Normally it is the reverse. We light one agarbatti and ask for 10 promotions. Here, she is telling Krishna, please bring all misfortunes in the world that you can gather on me. Why? Because then I will call you. When I call you, you will come. Your coming is more important for me than any misfortune that comes to me. If I am happy, I may forget to call you. Who knows? So gather everything on my head, all the viparas that are possible. And Krishna says, so be it. So this is the sign of the spiritual journey. One takes a spiritual journey. It's not, spiritual journey is not a fashion. We have everything, along with that we have a rose in the lap. But what is that? This is my guru. I have everything, so what am I doing? I am healing people. First heal thyself, physician, heal thyself. But the healing is usually the healing the well-healed, not the others. So, these are the things that one has to understand as we proceed on the spiritual journey. So it is a serious affair, it's not a half-hearted attempt at doing something, either as a trend or as a fashion. Some few years ago it was a trend. When you meet in a party, people ask, oh, how is your heart? I have BP, you have, what about yours? Now it is, who is your guru? That is a, so it should not, it's a kind of a trend, you see. That is not the essence of a spiritual journey, and the Bhagavad lays this very nicely to us, that one who seriously wishes to have communion with the Lord will certainly have communion with the Lord, provided he is able to face the obstacles and move forward without compromise. So since we discussed all this yesterday in general, I thought today I brought Bhagavad with me. I want to read me, relate to you. The one chapter first called Kapila Upadesha. Because in the Bhagavatam, there, apart from the 10 avatars that are generally mentioned, every manifestation of wisdom and power and energy in any form is considered an Amsha avatar of the Supreme. And Kapila is considered to be also an avatar of the Supreme Being. And today all this knowledge which is called Sankhya, all the Sankhya knowledge, including even Vedantins sometimes have to hark to Sankhya to explain many things. Now this whole of Sankhya is, the founder is Kapila Muni himself. And Kapila is so important that in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, where Krishna describes his Mahimas. You see that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is a completely different person. He is a guru, a teacher sitting in the chariot and teaching Arjuna. No more cavorting with the gopis in Vrindavan. So he is a multifaceted personality. So the Gita, when Krishna talks about his glories, he says, when he says, among all excellent things I am, like among the Achalas I am the Himachala, among the mountains I am the Meru, among the Vedas I am the Samaveda. When he comes to Rishis, Munis, he says, among the Munis I am Kapila. So, this great manifestation of the Supreme, known as Kapila Vasudeva, in fact Bhagavatam refers to him as Kapila Vasudeva, is the teacher of Sankhya philosophy. The second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita itself is called Sankhya Yoga. And then yoga, what we call yoga today, the darshana which is called yoga, is actually a derivation from Sankhya itself. So Kapila is such an important character and his teachings are so important to understand. So in the Bhagavad there is a chapter on Kapila Muni and his teachings. And his student, his disciple is none other than his own mother, Devahuti. So he addresses the student as, "Oh mother, here I teach." So I would like to go through that part now. And then if we get a little time, then we will see the wonderful relationship between the great Asura Hiranyakashipu and his son Prahlad. This is also a very important thing many things to be gathered from this relationship. And even though Hiranyakashipu is supposed to be an Asura with all the Asuric characteristics, the Bhagavad says he attained moksha in the end because he was constantly thinking of the Lord because he hated him so much. So if somebody doesn't like you, don't get upset. Encourage them. One day you might meet in some next life and be good friends. Seriously. We have this tendency to think only of one life, which is all that you know about. There's a lot in the beginning and there's a lot to come, which we forget. Because we hold a pencil, we know which is the middle. Very easy, but we don't know where it begins and where it ends. It depends on where you sharpen it. You call this beginning. The other end is end. If you sharpen the other end, that is the beginning and this is the end. Now, this is from the Bhagavad. It's a very simplified version that I am using. Devahuti. Now, Devahuti is the mother Kapila. And one more thing before we start. The actual word meaning of the word Kapila means blonde, golden hair. Kapila. So perhaps I sometimes wonder if Kapila Muni was a blonde. Now that's an additional reason why we should listen carefully to him. Because it's always a fashion that when anything comes from the blonde side, people listen very carefully. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had this story. When Sri Ramakrishna was around, there was one gentleman who was very well educated and so on. Used to come to him and Sri Ramakrishna used to tell him, read the Gita, it's a good thing. That's all this nonsense, that kind of thing. So one day the same gentleman comes and says that, the Bhagavad Gita is a very beautiful book. We must read it. So Sri Ramakrishna in his native wisdom, you know that he never went to school. In native wisdom he says, some Englishman must have told him that the Gita is a good book. Because I have been telling him for 6 months. So we have to listen to Kapila, he's blonde. So, Devahuti did as she was told. She worshipped Narayana day and night. Long time passed. Simple, no? In course of time, the Lord entered her womb and stayed like fire, which is hidden in the Arani. Arani, the ancient times, to light a fire, you could not, there were no matchboxes. It was a great sacred ritual even to light the fire. They had to have 2 dry pieces of wood on which one has to be kept. Arani Madana. Then, yes. So slowly the spark comes. And the Upanishads are full of allusions to this symbology. And he's saying that the spirit resides in that wood. It only comes out when the manthana is done. Then once the spark comes, it catches up. So lighting the fire itself was a sacred affair, because it was not easy to even get fire. Not like now, touch a switch, there is light, then it's become quite cheap and easy. So, like fire which is hidden in Dharani, the Lord entered a room and stayed like. There was great rejoicing in the heavens when this happened. To the ashrama, which was beautiful, on the banks of the river Saraswati, on either side, with gardens and beautiful trees, came Brahma the creator. Brahma, the father of Kardama, and with him came Marichi and the other rishis. Brahma, who knew that Narayana would be born and the purpose of his birth, came to his son Kardama and his wife and said, "My child, you have been the ideal son to me. You obeyed my commands, and now you have 9 daughters who will propagate the race of human beings. Give them to the rishis who are with me. The Lord Narayana will be born as your son, and even now your wife is bearing him in her womb." So Kardama married his daughters off to the rishis. There is a description of who married whom. You need not be concerned about that. Too many names. The thoughts of the great event to come kept everyone happy. Kardama alone, with his wife, now that the daughters had gone away, prostrated before the Lord who was in her womb. Kardama prostrated before his wife, which means he was prostrating to the Lord who is in the womb. And he said, "How can I, with my poor and inadequate intelligence, describe the greatness that is you? How can I express your infinite kindness?" It's very interesting. The Bhagavad keeps on repeating that it is difficult in Kali Yuga to understand the great wisdom of the teachings of the Lord, because human beings are generally dull-witted and short-lived. We like to think that we are the most advanced intellectuals that are around in this part of evolution. Bhagavad never fails to rub in the fact that we are dull-witted. So Kardama says, "How can I, with my intelligence, describe this great kindness that is in my wife's womb as Narayana?" Great rishis spend years and years training their minds to follow the path of devotion. With single-minded bhakti, they try to sit in solitary spots and concentrate on your form, trying to visualize you in their hearts. And what have you done? Unmindful of the fact that I am an ignorant, stupid, low man who is caught in the web of the senses. Not minding all this, you have agreed to be born in this humble ashrama of mine and my son. What shall I say? What can I say? Once you told me that you would be born as my son. To keep that promise, you have come. The seers, the rishis know you by realizing you with their tapasya. I can only fall at your feet and worship you. How can I describe that Ishvara? You are the Purusha. You are the world and the protector of the world. I salute you, Kapila Vasudeva, the Lord of the Lords. I am bent on adopting sannyasa. I want to spend the rest of my life in contemplation of you and do nothing more. You will find that in the Bhagavad, great kings, great teachers, great rishis, they do everything, and then finally they wind up and say, now we have done our job, we are going into the forest to contemplate 24 hours on the Lord. You find this occurring again and again in the Bhagavad. So he said, now that my job is done, I am going away into the forest to contemplate on the Lord. Now Narayana, who was inside Devahuti, heard all this, and he said, Kardama. So a voice came which said, Kardama, I had once promised you that I would be born as your son. How could I stay without fulfilling this? This my avatara is for the benefit of mankind. I want to speak the truth about Brahma Vidya. So Kapila, Kardama made a pradakshina to Kapila and went off to the forest. In the forest he spent his days in silence. He thought of nothing else but the Brahman. He had no feelings of attachment. He was beyond the plane of cause and effect. He reached the stage where the three gunas are so perfectly balanced that man becomes nirgun without any of the three gunas. The feelings of I and mine had left him long ago. The opposite ceased to trouble him, opposite pain and pleasure. The pains of the body, the agitations of the mind, and the restlessness of the intellect all vanished. His vision turned inwards, and he saw nothing but Narayana inside and outside. In such a frame of mind, Kardama, the son of Brahma, the father of Kapila Vasudeva, reached the feet of the Lord. After Kardama went away to the forest, bent on sannyas, the young son Kapila stayed in the ashram on the banks of the lake Bindusaras with his mother. Days passed. Devahuti remembered the words of Brahma. My dear daughter, Lord Narayana desires to teach the world Brahma Vidya, and hence he has decided to be born as your son. Devahuti saw her son sitting all by himself, so she went to him and said, You are my son. I also know that you are Lord Narayana. I am asking you to help me. I am tired of this life which I have spent in gratifying the senses. You are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness. I have the good fortune to be the mother of the Lord. Tell me what I want to know. In this body, made up of the 5 elements, you have instilled the feelings of I and mine. You have it susceptible to several emotions like love and hatred. And this evil of ignorance has drawn across the Atman by you and you alone. Now it is up to you to remove it and save us. Teach me the path to Shanti, to peace, to fulfillment. Teach me the path of Mukti, freedom, salvation. Tell me about your nature, Purusha and Prakriti. If I learn about them, perhaps I can be free of the bondage of this life and death. Kapila's face lit up with a smile, looked at his mother, and he said, I will tell you. In my opinion, there is only one yoga which will entirely destroy the pains and pleasures which are the results of samsara. I taught this yoga to the rishis of yore when they were eager to learn it. I will teach you the same yoga now. I will, however, make the lesson easy for you. Anyone can understand this path to salvation. Mother, the first sentence is the most important teaching of Kapila to his mother. Mother, it is the mind which is the cause of bondage as well as freedom. Both. In the Gita, Krishna says, the mind is both your friend and your enemy. If you make it your friend, then you will know how to conquer it. The same way Kapila says here, It's this mind which is the cause of bondage as well as the cause of freedom. Consider the mind. When it gets involved in the three gunas, you know what are the three gunas? Gunas are the chief three characteristics which all human beings possess, which is sattva, rajas and tamoguna. Sattva also every human being possesses, but it is usually manifested on a very low scale. Sattva means goodness, peace, tranquility, happiness. Rajas is activity, movement, desire to attain, achieve, grasp, obtain. And tamoguna is this laziness, inertia, not wanting to do anything, which you should not suspect to be spiritual. No, seriously, because there is this, somewhere along the line some people are so lazy to do anything, they think we are spiritual. That is, tamoguna is not sattva, please understand. Because there is this, it's a beautiful commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, written by the great Avaduta, whose name was Sadashiva Brahmendra. It's called Yoga Sudhakara, beautiful, in which part of the time he spends trying to clarify, please don't mistake tamoguna for sattva, because both look similar, but two different things. Because Turiya and Sushupti are so close to each other, one might think Sushupti is Turiya. Now Sushupti is deep sleep, and Turiya is illumination of understanding the whole of the Supreme Reality. So for people who are caught up in tamoguna, who are doing always sleeping, eating, especially if you get food without any effort, it's wonderful. And then lying down happily, watching TV, nothing. Now this will not help you to reach sattva. It will not quieten the mind. You may physically be quiet, but mind is not quiet. For such people, the only way to purify the mind and move towards sattva is through rajas, activity. But that activity should, as far as possible, be not self-centered. If that kind of activity is inculcated, then through that activity, the mind gets purified of tapoguna and move towards sattva. Now the calmness of sattva-guna is a quiet peacefulness that can come in the midst of all activity, which is the whole thing about karma yoga described in the Gita. It's not actionlessness, but peace in the midst of all action. Distinguishing is very important between them. So, here Kapila says, consider the mind. When it gets involved in the three gunas, then there is an upset in the balance of the gunas. Then one of the gunas becomes predominant and the Atman gets involved in the play of emotions. The mind turns away from the inner self and begins to be only caught up in objects which are outside. It seeks gratification from them and it therefore wanders further and further away from the inner self called the Atma. This same mind, if you turn it inwards, if it attaches itself to Purusha, the Lord, Ishvara, Narayana, then the same mind will be the cause of freedom from the coils of the senses. This path is called by the name Chitta Samyama. It is the first step towards the goal. When the feelings of I and mind, see, basically there are no problems. The main problem is I and mind. If there is no I and mind, there is no problem. Where is the problem? You see, we think that this is mine. Somebody is trying to take it away. There is the problem starts. Actually, nothing belongs to anybody. Anyway, that's a different story. So this path is called by the name Chitta Samyama. It is the first step. When the feelings of I and mind disappear, the mind at once becomes free of kama, krodha and other qualities. It becomes pure and is fit enough to lead you to me, who am the Atman in your own self. The pleasures of the world and pain will not affect it anymore. Doesn't mean that the great rishis and the great saints don't have pain or troubles in the world. They have. But their looking at it is completely different from an ordinary person looking at it. Because they have realized that they are not the body. So, even though the body is there, sensations are there, there is pain. Deep down they are aware that there is no pain. There is a lot of difference between an ordinary person's physical ailment and a great saint having a physical ailment. Don't say that because they are a great saint they will never have a physical ailment. It doesn't work that way. As long as you have a physical body, there are bound to be problems. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had cancer of the throat. So what more example can I give you? Ramana Maharshi had a cancer in his left arm. So it is not as if we are becoming spiritual to be free of physical disease. No, it is good to be free of physical disease. I am not saying no. But everybody cannot become Mahavatar Babaji, please. This is not possible. People all the time are so concentrated on the body that they are trying to keep it young for ages together. Which is a good thing, otherwise all the cosmetic clinics will close down. But man is so afraid of old age approaching that if single sign of a wrinkle is running to find what is that thing, collagen or whatever. Buttocks? Anyway, so when it is equipped with vairagya, detachment and non-attachment, with bhakti, which is devotion, I am asking this because recently I had an accident, so everybody asked me, how come you got into this, what happened, are you feeling pain? What I said, of course I am feeling pain, I mean this is fine. And when you are feeling pain, somebody says, whose pain have you taken? They don't give you amrita and food. So, every human being, if you have a physical body, there is bound to be a problem. The physical body itself is a limitation. It's not unlimited. So therefore, it's there. But why am I laughing and smiling? Because I know that this is a thing which is here for a few days and gone tomorrow. We have seen many such things come and go. So why are we caught up with this thing? In fact, if anybody has caused injury to us, as they have been in contact with us for the time when they are causing the injury, perhaps they will spiritually evolve. That should be there. We should pray for them that maybe in some next life they will say, thank you, sir. Our lives have changed. Possible. So maybe it is a blessing for somebody that things happen. Who knows? And anyway, there's about this life in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavatam itself. There is another story of, I think, Chitraketu. Chitraketu dies at a young age. So his parents are very unhappy, crying and lamenting as usual, because we are attached, we think this is our child. So Narada, Agastya, someone comes that way and they go and complain and lament that our son, only son has passed away, please help him to come back. So Narada says, this is not possible. that is beyond the law. That somebody who has gone to the other shore to be brought back, it doesn't work that way. So they plead and plead. Finally he said, for a short while, if you want to understand and get blessed, I will bring him back. So he brings him back. The young soul comes and stands before Narada. Narada says, see, the parents are extremely happy. He says, here is your father and mother, do pranams to them. So Chitraketu asks Narada secretly, which serial number father and mother is this? He tell me. Because we passed through so many. Who was my mother today in last birth, maybe my child in this birth. Who may be my child last birth, may be sitting here as somebody else's child. We don't know. So we are all interlinked. This is the thing to understand. That we are not isolated individuals. When I say this is mine and that is not his, it is also his, because he is also me in some way. Even biologically we are all linked together. We come from the same number of chromosomes and a million years of genetic evolution. How can we be different? Forget the soul. We are all one. So when the mind has gone within and understood that it is no different from others, that the same Narayana is smiling inside the hearts of all as Antaryami, then the knowledge of the Brahman reveals itself. No need to try for it. Of all the paths to me, Mother, Bhakti is the easiest and the surest. There is no other path which grants you freedom as quickly as this path of devotion. The wise say that Sangha, attachment, is the imperishable quality which is there in man. Why? All living beings are creatures of society. People cannot live in isolation. If you don't have a satsanga, you will have a dursanga, but sangha will be there. There is no question. Because we cannot survive without a society. So sangha is so important. Now, Kapila is saying, the wise say that sangha, forming a group, being attached to each other, is an imperishable quality which is evergreen without any possibility of getting destroyed. It cannot be ignored. Mother, attachment is always there. You can't say I am not attached. If I am not attached to something, I may be attached to something else. There are people who come and say, we don't believe in worshipping idols. Ah, wonderful. I say, you must be great Brahmagyanis. You don't believe in worshipping idols. When you go to their house, in every wall there is a picture of Amitabh Bachchan. She said, what is that? It is a matinee idol. So I said, oh, you are still idol worshippers. There is nobody who is not an idol worshipper. If it is not this idol, it is some other idol. Then some people are there who are so fond of only themselves that they frame their own photographs and put it in different forms. But they don't believe in idol worship. In this context, it's very interesting. I'm sorry I'm moving away from the Bhagavatam is only the beginning of holding on to something. You should. So, I don't know if you know that there is a beautiful book called The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Very beautiful book. Basically, it's a recording of all the things that went around when happened in Dakshineshwar when Sri Ramakrishna was alive, physically. Noted down on Sundays by somebody who used to come on only Sundays because he was working, he was a college professor, lecturer, so he could get time only on Sundays. He used to come, and from the beginning, Sri Ramakrishna took a good liking to this gentleman, And even if he is talking, he would stop suddenly and ask in Bengali, have you noted that down? When someone else tried to note down, he said, throw that away into the Ganga. So this gentleman, whose name was Mahendranath Gupta, who also called himself M, wrote the Gospel of Ramakrishna. So mostly you will find only references to holidays, either some holiday or Sunday, just to record what was going on. So it's interesting, when first he goes to visit him, he goes to visit him because he is very upset. His wife throws him out. You can imagine how upset people get. So he goes, somebody says there is a Paramahamsa staying in Darshaneshwar temple. Or a, what you call the educated Bengali Babu, but still go and see, maybe you will get something out of that. He goes and he sees this man standing there, an ordinary priest of Kali temple, wearing a dhoti and standing there. So he says, what is your name and where have you come from? There's a small chat. Then suddenly Sri Ramakrishna asks him, not this him, that him, asks him, what do you think about God? What is your opinion? You are an educated man. So, do you believe in God with form or without form? Can you tell me? So, M says, of course I believe in God. God doesn't have a form, he is all pervading. Because he was also part of the Brahmo Samaj. So, in those days, all young people were part of the Brahmo Samaj. Swami Vivekananda was also once upon a time connected to the Brahmo Samaj. So he says, no, God is Almighty Supreme Being, doesn't belong to any form. Okay. Then he said, then this God of yours, is he only in some place in the heaven, or is he here, or is he everywhere? So I am saying, no, he is all pervading. There is no place where he does not exist. He says, very good. That's a very good point. Then you see that image of Kali there? I said, yes. So don't you think he is also there? Or do you want to exclude him? Because if he is all pervading, he has to be there also. You cannot say that it is all pervading but he is not there. So M is stunned because nobody has talked to him in such practical terms and pointed out things which, so he is a little bit stunned. So after a while he recovers and he says, yeah, that is true, that supreme reality is also manifested in the image, but then we have to make people understand, that actually it is not that, but it is, we have to teach people, they are ignorant. He says, this is the problem with you Bengalis. First you don't know and you want to teach others. He was himself a Bengali, it was just a way of saying. He says, you are very fond of lecturing. You don't know, you want to teach others what it is. So, this was his first encounter where he in a simple language describes to him that this is what it is. And connected to that, the first day when he goes to see Ramakrishna, returns home, he decides that he won't come back again. What is the use of coming? Is that some priest? I won't come back. So several days later, he goes back on a holiday, on a Sunday. So Sri Ramakrishna sitting with his young boys, later on became Swami Vivekananda and Brahmananda, all these disciples, all sitting together. He enters and everybody starts laughing, bursts out laughing. So afterwards he asks, why did you all laugh? Am I looking like a joker or something? He said, no. Thakur was telling us a story. He said once a peacock went to a temple and the priest mixed some opium in the milk. So the peacock drank the milk. From that time, every day at that time the peacock used to come. It was fine. And then after saying this story, he said, the peacock will come just now, watch. And that is when you came, so we laughed. So, this is all a question of taking that opium. In fact, all people who are on the spiritual field seriously are all kind of drunkards, to be honest. Except that they drink the spirit and not spirituous liquids. It's similar but not the same. Once Sri Ramakrishna was going in his buggy, when on the road he saw a man fully drunk, really. He said, stop, stop. So they stopped. He jumped out of and went and embraced him. And he said, brother, we are both belonging to the same category. You are a drunk, I am also drunk. I am drinking something, you are drinking something, but we are quite similar. Because, you see, these are not matters which can be confined to ordinary logic and so-called. This has to break the boundaries of ordinary thinking. And for that, there has to be a spirit. Understand what the inspiration in the Sufis call it ishq. Ishq, it cannot be defined actually. Some Hindi movies and all, ishq. Ishq cannot be actually described. In fact, one great Sufi said, shall I quote? He said, Akhal ke madrase se ut. You get up from this school of intellect, mainly intellectual prattle actually. Akhal ke madrase se ut. Get up from this. Ishq ke mahfale mein, I come into this tavern of ishq. The tavern is a very commonly used word among the Sufis. And this tavern meaning getting drunk with God. That's what it means. Ishq ke mahfale mein, I come into this bar of ishq. Jame fana wa bekhudi ab to piya. Now you have drunk the wine of total annihilation and non-self, bekhudi. Jo ho, so ho, no, enjoy. What happens will happen. Who cares? That is the thing. So there is no business of profit and loss in this matter. It's a question of intense joy, unexplainable, uncontrolled in any way, which fortunately happens to be the heritage, essence of every human being, whether you want it or not. Nobody is exempt from it, but we are only exempting ourselves from it, being caught up in these concepts, narrow concepts of I and money. That fellow didn't talk to me, so what? Good. You know how it's not that people don't suffer so much because of not having money or not having food. That is not the main suffering. The suffering is the ego. I went to that party somewhere, nobody recognized me, nobody talked to me. I said, wonderful, you could have had some nice time by yourself. Why are you worried about it? But no, but we have to be recognized, you see. Otherwise, the world is going to collapse around us because we live by images. We have created an image. And any pinprick on that image is disaster. I am saying don't create the image at all in the first place. Leave it. Do your thing. Finally, when you are going to die, there is nobody with you. Oh, thank you. One will do. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that. This is Ida and this is Pingala. So Sangha or being together in company, to belong to a group, is a common trait of the human being. You cannot cut it away. You cannot say, till now I was in a group, today I will cut it away and live in solitude in the Himalayas. It doesn't work. Wherever we go, we carry our mind. You know that. Wherever we go, we are not going away. It's late. Huh?
Put the mic a little
Far away. Wherever we go, we take our mind. So we cannot live in isolation. It's not possible. Babaji, my guru, used to tell me that if you go to the cave, suppose you are there for some, say 13 years you are sitting in the cave, meditating, 13 hours a day. End of it, you say, okay, now I am free of jealousy, I am free of anger, I am free of what? He used to ask me, what is there in the cave that you should be jealous of? Who are you going to be angry with? There is nothing there. It's only when you come out of the cave and get into the bus and somebody kicks you on the foot, especially with a stiletto heel, then you know where you stand. Right? So Sangha is a natural part of human existence. You cannot be free of it. Therefore, Sangha being a natural part of one's life, the more one gets, instead of saying I don't want to be, the more one gets attached to a group which is moving towards the spiritual path, the less you get attached to Dursanga. So if you don't have Satsanga, you will definitely end up with Dursanga. There is no question about that. You cannot live in isolation. People come from abroad, they spend some time here in the Himalayas, meditating, doing in solitude, but the visa expires, they have to go back. When they go back, they are in the same situation they came from. Where is the Sangha there? You see? Then you will have to again come back here before you become a yogi. So these are common matters, we all know this, it's a fact. So says Kapila. So therefore, Sangha or attachment is always there in some form or the other. Therefore, Bhakti means let the attachment be there. You cannot cut it off. Instead of that, feed it. Instead of feeding it with the usual objects of the senses, feed that attachment with thoughts of the divine. So you change the Sangha. Change the object of your desire and attachment. You have been attached to the things of the world. Let the attachment remain, but change the object. In the place of worldly objects, substitute Narayana. Bhagavatam refers to the Supreme Being as Narayana. Attachment to Narayana makes the other ties snap by themselves. You want to first snap and then attach, this doesn't work. This is what Kapila is trying to say. Go closer and closer to that, then you slowly be free of this. And it is such a simple thing to do. It's not so complicated. If one desires to do it, it's a question of priority. This process of transferring the attachment from the lower to the higher will naturally be a gradual process. It is not easy because all our life, if our mind is in one direction, it's not easy to suddenly shift it to another direction. So it is gradual. It is not possible to abandon the one and adopt the other all of a sudden. This is not possible. It's a great study in psychology actually. This Kapila Upadesha is a great study in psychology. It is the ultimate aim should be Mukta Sangha. The best method of schooling the mind to follow this path.
Adishankara tells Satsangatve Niswangatvam Nisangatve Nirmohatvam Nirmohatve Nishcharadatvam Nishcharadatve Jivan.
Right. So Narayani never says such things. The best method of schooling the mind to I'm joking, huh? Best mind of schooling the mind to follow this path is to have the company of sadhus. When the mind becomes attached to the company of the sadhus, then it would abandon slowly the other attractions by itself. How can the mind be led towards the thoughts of the Lord? It's easier than it seems. As I said before, the feelings of I and mine are the impurities which cloud the mind and turn it away from the goal. A mind free of these will naturally turn towards the Lord. Once this is achieved, once you are a Mukta Sangha, you should now spend your time in Satsanga, the company of the sadhus. Attachment, the evergreen body which ties you down, should be for sadhus. Who are the sadhus? What are their characteristics? How can they be recognized? I will tell you. Not me, Kapila, I will tell you. The sufferings, the ills and pains. First sentence, sadhu. The sufferings, the ills and pains that the physical body is heir to, which the physical body naturally has, do not affect the sadhus. The ills and pains of the physical body do not affect the sadhus. That is a sadhu. So if you go to a sadhu, take a pin, give one prick, he says, no, that's not. Then they are full of compassion for all human beings. The 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Bhakti Yoga. Now this 12th chapter, which is called Bhakti Yoga, is the essence of Bhakti as described by Sri Krishna. Who better can describe Bhakti? In that, it of course starts with the question of Arjuna. It is one of the few chapters which starts with Arjuna Uvacha. Normally it is Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. And the question asked it should be, who is the greatest of yogis? One who believes in God without form as the supreme, unutterable, unreachable, absolute, indescribable being, or one who worships you as Krishna or Vasudeva or whatever. Which among them is the greatest of the yogis? This is Arjuna's question. As usual, Krishna skirts that issue. He says it is alright, doesn't matter whether you worship God with form, without form. As long as you worship it is alright, with form or without form. Of course, Krishna says to Arjuna, it is difficult for human beings to fix their attention on something that is abstract, because we are all body oriented. All of us are body oriented. At least in the beginning, it is difficult to fix your attention on something that is infinite, because we all are form oriented. How do we recognize each other? Through form. What do we do as soon as we get up in the morning, in the bathroom? Look at the mirror. So we are body oriented, and since we are body oriented, imagine how is it possible to transcend that and fix on something that is eternal. It is not easy. It's not possible. Therefore, he says that is there. But if somebody can fix their attention on the abstract supreme being, that's fine. Doesn't matter how you look at it. But there are certain qualities which are required before I call a person a great yogi, a sadhu, as described in the Bible. And what is the first sentence? The first qualification, according to Krishna, in the 12th chapter of the Gita, which is called Bhakti Yoga, is the yogi's first characteristic should be Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata. one who has compassion for all living beings. He didn't say one who sings my name every day. He didn't say, I'm not saying that is wrong. He's saying the priorities. He didn't say one who does tapasya on one foot. He did. What he says is Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, one who has a compassion of all living beings in his heart. This is the first quality. If that is there, it doesn't matter whether you worship God with form, without form, immaterial. Although it is difficult to fix your attention on the formless because we are body oriented. In the same way, here he says, one of the things, he says Sadhu Sangha is important, Mukta Sangha. He says, how do we identify a Mukta? First of all, physical bodily ailments may not affect him. His mind will always remain the same. Then he has compassion for all living beings. All living beings are to such sadhus their own kinsmen. They are not different. They love all beings. So naturally, they have no enemies. Others may think that they are their enemies, but they don't think that they are their enemies. That difference is there. Somebody feels free to think that you are his enemy. Sadhus, but sadhus don't have enemies from their side, from our side. They are at peace with themselves. Their minds are clear and tranquil without agitations. And they never move from the path of righteousness. Their conduct is flawless and their thoughts flow towards me and only towards me. They have no other duties, obligations, relations, no other claims on their affections or their thoughts. They are interested only in stories about me, and they are happy when they release these stories to others. I am trying to prove that I am a sadhu. The troubles of the world are no troubles for them because they refuse to be affected by them. They are free from attachment, and such people are called sadhus. Mother, pray that your mind becomes attached to these sadhus. They are capable of helping you to break away from all attachments. Constant company with such sadhus is called sadhu satsanga, and that is the way that leads man towards freedom. It's the first part of Kapila's teachings. The second part of Kapila's teachings are about Purusha and Prakriti, Yoga Vidya, Atma Vidya, and so on and so forth. But it is 7 o'clock now. Even though we are not much affected by bodily ills, it does have some effect on the body. So sometimes a little rest is of great help, especially after a bad accident. So thank you very much. Delightful to be again here.